proposed Department of Finance proposed fit-out of new Commonwealth Parliament offices at One Festival Tower, Adelaide. In accordance with the committee's resolution, this hearing will be broadcast on the Parliament's website, and the proof and official transcripts of proceedings will be published on the Parliament's website. Also remind members of the media who may be present or listening on the web of the need to fairly and accurately report the proceedings of the committee. My name is Graham Perrott. I'm speaking to you from Brisbane. I'm the chair of the committee and the member for Moreton.
Keith, Deputy Chair for the member.
And Mr Zapier is on the line in Adelaide at the moment, but I'll also go to... Sorry, Mr Zapier?
No, I was just going to say, yeah, I'm still listening in, but I've got no questions, Graham, but yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any senators present?
Yeah, I'm here, Graham. Senator Rennick.
Senator Rennick from Queensland. Back to the ACT.
Dave Smith, member for Dean.
Thanks, Mr Smith. To Western Australia.
Good afternoon, Tracy Roberts, Federal Member for Pearce, Darling from Western Australia.
And back to the Gold Coast.
Karen Andrews, member for McPherson.
Thank you very much. I welcome representatives from the Department of Finance to give evidence. For the Hansard record, would you please state your full name and the capacity in which you appear?
My name is Sally Bectus. I'm the Acting First Assistant Secretary for the Department of Finance.
Roy Henry, Project Director with RPS Consulting.
Victoria Palmer, Acting Director, Capital Works and Security, Department of Finance.
David Cook, Project Director for AMC Architecture.
Thank you very much. Although the committee does not require you to give evidence under oath, I should advise you that these hearings are formal proceedings of the Parliament. Consequently, they warrant the same respect as proceedings of the Parliament itself. Giving false or misleading evidence is a serious matter and may be regarded as contempt of Parliament. Ms Bectas, my understanding is you want to table some remarks as a supplementary document by way of introduction.
That's correct, Chair.
Thank you. Well, we might move to questions, and I will go to the Deputy Chair first.
Thanks very much, Chair. And I've got a series of questions. I just want to start. Could you provide us some comments about what's the general level of occupancy that's expected in the Adelaide CPO?
The Adelaide CPO, usage in the Adelaide CPO actually fluctuates between exceeding 100% occupancy through peak periods. Dependent on the government of the day, resident numbers fluctuate between CPOs. For example, post an election or ministerial reshuffle, there has been between 3 to 5 over the past 5 years. In terms of numbers, that's the fluctuation there. There are currently, at the moment, we have 8 suites, of which only 3 are vacant.
And the new proposal is for 22 suites in total, is that correct?
No, that's not. The new proposal is to go to 15 suites.
15 suites?
From 8 to 15, that's correct.
8 to 15. But that's in total. That's the ministerial area plus the visiting suites?
Correct.
So given that there's only 10 people in the House of Reps and 12 senators, and you said that your usual occupation is between 3 and 5, I'm from Queensland, obviously don't know everything that happens in Adelaide. Does every senator in South Australia have a suite at the CPO?
No, not every senator has a suite in the CPO. However, some senators may elect to have an electorate office and their ministerial office combined. So that is alternates. We do have a resident senator at the moment in the CPO in Adelaide.
So how many ministerial offices are currently being utilised by South Australian representatives? How many are there?
Currently there are 4 residents in the Adelaide CPO that are occupied, but 5 suites are occupied because one of the ministers have got a combined suite. Because the current suites are quite small in the Adelaide CPO, we have had to combine 2 suites to accommodate the minister and her staff.
Yeah, and look, I can understand the need for separation if it's their Senate office plus their ministerial responsibilities, just on the grounds of security for documents. I can understand that. But can you just give us some commentary on how you came to that number for 15, given you've only got a fairly low total? And yes, I know there are a number of visiting people that will come through, and on the occasions that Cabinet may be held in South Australia, you're obviously full. But how is it determined that you needed almost 4,000 square metres?
As I said, as I just mentioned, the number of residents fluctuates depending on the need of the Parliament of the day. So currently the suites are at approximately 65% capacity with the permanent residents, and that is 4 residents using 5 suites out of the 8. This does not allow for any surge capacity like other CPOs can allow for. So when Adelaide holds meetings, for example, cabinet meetings, etc., this exceeds 100%, resulting in challenges in being able to accommodate any of the needs of our parliamentarians to be able to conduct their parliamentary business.
So how many cabinet meetings would there be on average in a year in South Australia?
Last year, there was 1 cabinet meeting. However, there are also other meetings that are held there, international meetings, etc. Our current meeting room doesn't hold more than 17 people. Therefore, there has been times where our parliamentarians have had to hold meetings off-site to be able to accommodate their guests in the meetings. But last year, we only had 1 cabinet meeting there.
Yeah, and look, I certainly understand the need for meeting rooms, having utilised the CPO in Adelaide previously. So how many staff are permanently based in the CPO now?
Total staff, I might just check my papers for that in terms of total staff. I have 5 finance staff that are actually based in there, but in terms of additional staff, I do, as I said earlier, we have 4 ministers, and their staff, they have their own staff, and who is actually based in the CPO. That can alternate. We don't keep records of their actual staff in the office, but what we do is just enable the facilities and accommodate the facilities for them to conduct their business.
But don't they get issued a pass, or does any government pass get you access to the building?
No, they do get issued a pass. In terms of, if I can take that question on notice exactly who has got access, how many people have got access to the Adelaide CPO before the end of the session, I'll get that for you.
No, that's great, thanks very much. But I'll make some assumptions that on average they wouldn't have more than a dozen, and I'd expect half of those to be in Canberra. But let's say they're all in the Adelaide CPO. There's 50 plus your 5. And in terms of the justification that's been put in the reports to us, the selection of the location is around connections to good transport connections and bikeways and everything else. Given it's pretty exceptionally low numbers, it is quite a lot of money. Now I absolutely acknowledge that it is the Commonwealth government, and this is the image that can sometimes be broadcast around the world, and I accept that the cost of the fit-out does need to be substantial. But the likelihood that you're going to see a significant expansion, I'm very fond of our brothers and sisters in South Australia, but I think it's unlikely that you'll have 10 or 12 or 15 of them in the ministry burning up those suites. And I know that there's some shadow ministers there as well. Do they utilise those facilities?
Yes, they do. They do.
And that's on a permanent basis?
The facilities are actually used by visiting parliamentarians as well to support and represent the Commonwealth outside of Canberra, as well as guests and visitors. So yes, they are used. In terms of the assumptions, I just wanted to state that these facilities that we are looking to build are future-proofed as well. So as you would appreciate, there's some assumptions that need to be factored in. We do look at retrospective data, but we also don't know what the future of the governments in the next 20 or 30 years would look like. And there is a requirement for us to be able to enable that we've got enough facilities for parliamentarians to be able to conduct their business effectively there. As I mentioned earlier, there's also challenges when there is surge in Adelaide. Coming out of COVID, I appreciate that, you know, there wasn't too many meetings held in Adelaide, but what we're seeing is that there is more and more of a demand as we're getting international guests, etc., coming through on our facilities. And currently in Adelaide, we're unable to accommodate them because of the limited space and the fact that the current CPO isn't fit for purpose. I appreciate it may look a bit extraordinary, but the other reality is that we do need to be able to ensure that our CPO in Adelaide is fit for purpose and is able to be able to accommodate and run parliamentary business just like all the other states.
Sorry, Ms. Becker, I know we're belabouring this, but I just want to go. So if the surge is one day a year or every second or third year, that's a lot of days, a lot of capacity for one day every 2 or 3 years. And I just take you back to my earlier intimation about international visitors. What sort of international visitors have used the Adelaide CPO in the last few years, or used the Brisbane CPO for that matter, or any CPO? Because I know we've had, well, I guess rather than surmise, why don't you give me an idea of the sort of people who have used Commonwealth parliamentary offices over the last little while, particularly in Adelaide?
In Adelaide, we've had the UK Foreign Secretary, PM from Tuvalu last week as well. And we do, the other specifics I will have to take on notice. We do have other international events. As I said earlier, because our current facility doesn't accommodate them, we've had to, the Minister has had to host them off-site, which again is a concern for us as a nation, not being able to accommodate international guests in our facilities.
So in terms of the suite of international visitors that won't use, their embassy, or I wouldn't imagine it's a long list of countries, but I'll wait to see what you've pulled together, I guess.
Yeah. We'll get that information for you. But I do also note that we don't know what we don't know into the future as well, and in the next 20, 30 years. So there is a level of assumption also built into that to be able to accommodate the unknown.
You've also indicated you're going to do a lease negotiation in 10 years' time and 5 years' time. So rather than bill for 30 years' time, why don't we, I think it's reasonably safe to assume we'll have 12 senators for a little bit longer, at the rate we have of successful changes to the Constitution, or changes even to the Electoral Act. But you can. I might go to the questions, and I'll just try Mr. Zappia. All right, we might press on to Senator Rennick and come back to Mr. Zappia if we're getting back on the line. Senator Rennick?
Yeah, I don't have anything, Graham.
Thanks very much. Mr. Smith in ACT?
Thanks, Chair. How many South Australian senators have elected offices in Adelaide at the moment?
It's just one.
Just one.
Not in the CPO, in Adelaide, full stop.
Oh, more broadly?
Yeah.
I'll just get that figure for you. I don't have it at my fingertips, I'm sorry.
That's all
right. There are 12. 10 in Adelaide CBD and Metro, 1 in Regional and 1 in CPO.
Have Have any of the senators not in the CPO indicated that they are interested in moving into the CPO?
Not that I'm aware of.
No. Yeah. No. And just, I guess, a final question: Are any of those leases expiring sooner rather than later in the next 12 months or 24 months, or they?
With the other...
For those elected officers?
I don't have that information with me, but what I would like to just add is that I'm not sure if you've been to the Adelaide CPO recently. I was there.
No, actually.
You've never been.
No.
It's a shame we haven't had an opportunity to walk you through it, because if one of the reasons, as I said earlier, that we are looking to for another premises and a new fit out is because it is actually not fit for purpose, and any of the residents that are in there, you aren't very happy with the premises generally. In addition to limited resources, in addition to not having the facilities like a cabinet room, like a proper media room, in addition to all of that, it is very pokey, it is very small, it is very dark. So the windows are quite small, they're not very well sealed. I was there last week and quite cold in the office. So there are a lot of reasons why our members in South Australia possibly would not want to go into the current CPO.
I understand that. I guess my concern would be if there have been a consultation with parliamentarians about the move. I would have imagined part of that consultation would have been trying to get an indication of whether other parliamentarians were interested in moving into the new CPO.
I don't have that specific information as to whether they would like to move in or not, but we do, in the consultation with parliamentarians and their staff, we have got a lot of information around some of the deficiencies of the current CPO that I outlined earlier that they would like for us to rectify in a possible new fit out.
Thanks, Chair.
Thanks very much, Mr. Smith. Just further to that, before I go to Ms. Roberts, that CPO steering committee, how many senators' staff, MP staff or ministerial staff are on that CPO steering committee in terms of making decisions about matters in the CPO?
There are no parliamentary or MOPS Act staff on the CPO steering committee. The CPO steering committee consists of Commonwealth APS employees from various departments that have got a key role in the development, management and functionality of a CPO.
So when you say the functionality of a CPO, you didn't actually have the people who function in the CPO on the steering committee?
No, we did not. But having said that, whilst they're not in the CPO steering committee, we have conducted in the last 12 months two surveys, and we are consulting, we are listening, and we are hearing them. One of the instigators of us looking to revisit the relocation and look for a lease and the design input into the new fit out is because of the feedback that we've been getting as well.
With respect, surveys aren't exactly nimble and reactive. They're the way that a living, breathing person can be in terms of processing information and making decisions. I would, at the risk of being presumptive, it'd be good to have people who work in offices involved in decisions about those offices, I would suggest, from now on and in future. But I'm jumping in front of Ms. Roberts, who has some questions.
No, that's fine, Chair. It's been a very informative and comprehensive presentation with some excellent questions already asked. So there's no further questions from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms Andrews?
Just in terms of the number of suites that are being proposed, have you taken into account any increases in the number of members of the House of Representatives over time?
Not specifically, no.
Okay, well, if that's the case, I really do struggle to understand why we're going from 8 to 15.
Again, as I mentioned earlier, there's the increased footprint that we have identified allows us for those to be able to, those additional suites to be able to facilitate to ensure our CPOs fit for purpose and flexible to adjust with the makeup of the Parliament for the next 20 years. Currently, the suites, as I mentioned earlier, are very much at capacity, 65%. They're not fit for purpose. They're not operational as well as we would like them to be. As a result, we have worked through intel information, looked at the standards across the other CPOs as well, and the figure of 15 suites was established for us to be able to accommodate anything into the next 20 or 30 years should there be any changes in addition to the current makeup.
Can you provide the committee with a summary of the calculation that was used to determine 15 as the number then, if you've taken in all of those other factors?
We will, absolutely. But again, it's not the number of suites that we also have aren't just for the residents. We also have quite a few visiting members that need a suite to work in whilst they're in Adelaide. So we need to have that available for them and their staff as well. So it accommodates visiting members, guests, as well as residents.
Well, if you can provide the basis of the calculation that was used to determine the number of 15, that would be appreciated. And if you could also then give us an indication of what the utilisation would be at the maximum level. So specifically, how often do you think that, or have you factored in, that the maximum number of suites will be used?
Thank you. I'll take that on notice.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Ms Andrews. Just checking again, Mr Zapier. No, okay.
I've got no questions. Thanks, mate.
Thank you to the South Australian on the committee. Ms Bektas, just going back to the lease term, One Festival Tower provides that potential lifespan of 30 years. We're looking at a 10 by 5 by 5. Could you just comment on that in terms of the lifespan of CPOs generally and the thinking behind the 10 by 5 by 5?
Sure, absolutely. The actual current fit out. Sorry, I've just got a paper being put in front of me. Thank you. The 10-year initial lease plus 2 by 5 by 5 extension option. The rationale for this one is it allows us for an opportunity to make review at option to make sure the rent is still competitive, and it gives us an opportunity to renegotiate at that point.
So renegotiate at a lower rate maybe is an option.
Absolutely, absolutely. Every step of the way we do look for value for money and negotiate as best we can to get the best outcome for the Commonwealth.
Yep, I've just seen a unicorn fly past the window here in the CPO in Brisbane as well. But anyway, we live in hope. Deputy Chair.
Yeah, thanks very much. I just want to come to the security aspects. And you've discussed that one of the reasons for the shift is to ensure that security is at a level that's necessary. Can you just talk us through some of the things that have to be dealt with in terms of an increase in the security level, what sort of consultation's been managed about potential threats and how the design may deal with some of that? Clearly nothing that's confidential, but just some general comment.
Absolutely. I might just start and hand over to my colleague who has specialised in this area. But like all of our buildings where parliamentarians are involved, they're very much projects that are designed and driven by security requirements. And that is, in addition to physical security, we look at every aspect of security when we are designing and maintaining these facilities. With regard to this project, my colleague will be able to walk us through all the steps of what's been factored in.
So we're also engaging with our security and intelligence agencies as required to ensure that we're meeting the right requirements for security for this project. And we also have the Security Construction and Equipment Committee endorsed consultant involved, and they provide specialist expertise for all matters security and security zoning.
Thanks very much. This might sound like a bit of a silly question. I've been in every CPO, and the majority have a beautiful view where you look at the window on a river or something else, the ocean, whatever else it might be. So, is that a challenge from a security standpoint, given their big glass windows that I assume you can see through?
It can be. It's something we're certainly taking into consideration as part of the design process.
Well, the design we saw had every employee sitting in front of a big glass window was in the presentation we saw. And I say that as I'm sitting in front of a CPO with the big glass windows in front of me. So.
I think it is a bit of a balancing act to make sure that we are getting the security aspects right. Then there's the usability, there's the lighting, and then there's preferences as well that we're juggling to make sure that we get the right balance there. But from a security perspective, happy to talk in camera about some of the treatment that we have for our buildings.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, when you say preferences, who determines what a preference is?
This is an interesting way to answer this, but I think lighting's better on the outer design, landlord as well. But I'm happy for one of my colleagues to add a bit more context there.
Really good question. The landlord owns the building, so they have some restrictions on use. They definitely want their building to look aesthetically nice from the outside and from the inside, so that does place some challenges for us. And also some of the buildings, the base building does not support some of the more heavy security measures, so we have to balance that. I think in Adelaide we're quite fortunate. We're quite high, so there's some threat mitigation there from how high we are up on the top levels. Okay, and the last one's just a comment. Congratulations on putting the individual zone in for air conditioning. As a recent user of the Brisbane CPO, that was one of the challenges locally. It was just ridiculous. You couldn't adjust temperatures room by room. Some days it'd be terrible, and other days it's almost like Canberra. And
final question from me, just wanted to ask, the two meeting rooms side by side, could they become one giant meeting room, or are they just next door to each other?
On the floor plan?
No, they don't. They're not conjoined.
Okay, thank you. Committee, any more questions? Well, thank you all for your attendance here today. You'll be sent a copy of the transcript to make any corrections to the transcription. I think you had a couple of items to get back to us on, which I think the Secretariat will remind you of. I now declare this public hearing closed, and if the committee could just stay on the line, we just have to have a